G'day, we're back. Carl here at Hinterland Caravans again. I think this is 4 or 5 in our collection of helpful hints and setting up your caravan, things to know. Remember, we did the other ones. We've done the drawbar, we've done your awning, we've done setting up for towing. I just wanted to touch on one other thing today, and that's about packing your van. Now this is pretty important. Everybody's van has a weight load maximum. That's your ATM. And your empty van, that's your tear, right? No one says you have to fill the van to the maximum. Somewhere in between, or it's up to you. But packing a van has got a lot to do with how it tows, how things stay in the van when you pull up. If you've travelled 3 or 4 hours and you've got your van packed correctly, your van should have sat pretty well on the road. If you've got your van incorrectly packed, if you've got everything at the front and loose things all through your cupboards, when you get to your destination you might find a lot of stuff's moved around. You might have found stuff falling through the push the drawers out. So what I thought it was worth doing today, and everybody's van's different. This is a second-hand Crusader. It's about 2 years old. It's a little single axle. It's about 17 foot, an off-road, lovely van. I thought it'd be interesting to have a look and show you the sort of things that the previous owner's done to make sure that she could have the van packed and things stayed where they've got to stay. Come on inside, we'll have a look. Okay, so we've popped inside the van, and what I wanted to point out, and I'll just put down my awning stick there, what I wanted to point out is what this lady's done. If we just have a quick look in this cupboard, and there's your typical setup for some of the cupboards in vans. This has got your hot water switch and your shower switch and your light switch and light. But this is what I'm interested in, this material here. Now, this is an anti-slip product. You're probably familiar with this. A lot of people use this in their home under mats and rugs and things to stop things sliding on, say, a polished wood floor or a tiled floor. You can buy this material from places like Bunnings, Hardware House, Masters. I think some of the camping shops sell it as well. It's a rubberized material and it's particularly good. It's strong, it's light, and once you put it on something, now look, that hangs on like chewing gum to a shoe. A lot of people line their shelves inside their vans with that, and that allows you then to have a particular base that if you're putting glasses or plates or whatever in there, it's not going to move around. It's going to sit in there nice and firm, and it'll stop things sliding around. And when you pull up, your cupboards won't have had everything moved from one side to the other. That's one option. Now, most vans, depending on the layout, and in a lot of cases, this has got to do with where the kitchen is. A lot of the storage in a caravan is based around the fridge, the kitchen, and the associated cupboards, and where you have both your food and your cutlery and your plates and the like. So let's have a look at this van. Down in these cupboards here, we can see the lady's put in all that anti-slip material. Being a kitchen, she probably would have had cooking utensils and things here, pots and pans, maybe some sort of rice boiler and so forth. We've got a set of drawers over here where she'd have some heavy utensils. She could have a coffee machine somewhere up here in one of the bench areas. So subsequently, this particular van could be a little bit front heavy. You'll notice on this van that the fridge is sort of central, and that's because being a single axle van, they've tried to keep the heavy items on the axle, so it's negative to putting weight at the back, negative to putting weight at the front. This is a pretty large 2-door fridge, and you can imagine she's going to have cold meats and vegetables and bits and bobs and fish and things in the freezer, and all the appropriate milks and cheeses and butters and olives and whatever else in here. And you can see that fridge would carry quite a bit of weight. From there's another sort of servery area here. Once again, you might find knives and forks, condiments and things here, right? Once again, they've got the anti-slip matting. In these lower cupboards, this one's got a hot water system in it. Now that's important to know. Some vans, depending on the size of them, those hot water units carry 23 litres to 28 litres of water as part of the hot water system itself. So they've once again tried to put that central in this van. That's all based on, they're trying to pack it so that the weight is distributed evenly between the front, the middle and the back, so that the van sits flat. There's a storage box in the front of the van. That's where people put things like their hoses and their leads and their wood blocks and the like. Some tools, maybe some fishing gear. If you're going to put 50, 60, 70, 100 kilos of weight into that front boot area, subsequently you probably should try to find product, equipment, tools, materials that you can put in the back of the van so you don't get that seesawing effect. Now if we come around this way, let's have a look under this bed. I'll bet you there's some more storage here. Most newish vans, and pretty well every van for the last 10 years at least, some even back to 20 years, have got a bed that lifts up, whether it's a single bed or a double bed, a queen bed. Now this bed here has got storage under it. It's got a bit of a centre board, and that's to stop things sliding all around the shop. But it's got an area at the back and an area at the front. Now, right now, there's a that's a Caravan cover that's sitting in here. But I could have, in some cases, a battery in here. I could have fold-up chairs. I could have a card table. I could have a suitcase. If I was travelling all the time, I might have a case or a plastic tub that's got winter clothes in it that I'm not using at the moment. So what I'm saying is, try to think about how you pack your van. Put as much weight evenly front to rear, or if the vans have the wheels set at the back, and so there's going to be a bit more weight at the front with the actual dropping of the van, you might want to put a little bit more weight at the back. It's very important to pack your van correctly, and not just front to back, but also right to left. If you can imagine you're towing a van and all your weight was on the curb side, as the van would be going down the road, you would always have that slight lean that way because the weight's on that side. It'd be like walking down a hill. You'd have all your weight on your downhill leg. So try to pack evenly, right to left, front to back. Think about where the weight is. Think about your axles. If you've got a certain ball weight on your van, you don't want to increase that to a point where it ridiculously loads the van up by having everything forward. Utilise the back of your van. Put things under your bed. Put things in your back cupboards. If you were having a generator, I'd recommend, if you had the opportunity, to try and reduce the weight on the front of your van. I personally like putting my generators on the backs of the vans. I get a generator box, I have a plate set on my bumper bar, I get a checker plate box, I have my generator in there. I try to avoid too much weight forward. All the vans we sell have got dual water tanks these days. Our main brands are Crusader, Supreme, Leader and Avita. That's our main brands. We've got everything second hand. But in those brands, all of those vans have got dual water tanks. They've got two separate fillers, which allows you to fill either a tank forward or back, the first tank or the second tank. Once again, we're looking at weight distribution. We're looking at, do I need to carry water with me the day I head off from my home driveway? If I'm going somewhere in Australia, unless I'm going to a remote desert area or somewhere very isolated, you can probably get water all the way along. Why would you not think about carrying maybe 40 litres of water so you could have a quick shower or boil a billy or, wash some plates, and fill up water as you stop at roadhouses, at parks, at rest areas. Carrying extra water is a lot of weight, and it also puts a lot of stress and strain, extra weight on your car, packing the van. Why put water in when you don't need to? If you're going somewhere where there's not going to be water or you're unsure, fine, fill your van with water. Otherwise, take what you need for the day or two that you're spending to get to that spot and fill up as you go. Now, when I was in the van, I touched on the front boot. This is what we call the front boot of the van. This is a particularly wide one. In the old school, it's about 18 inches. Some of them are more like half of that, 9-10 inches. This is an area that a lot of people misunderstand. This is not normally, your front boot is not normally a weatherproof area. And the reason I say that, okay, there's a bit of light rain and you're driving into a little bit of drizzle, you probably won't have any trouble. But if you have a look how these boots work, they've got a seal around this door and another rubber seal here, and that has to sit over one and over the other. It sort of comes down and clamps, right, and you turn your handle and lock it. But what I'm bringing to your attention is, no manufacturer, to the best of my knowledge, guarantees this is a watertight compartment. And the reason is, if you're travelling up the highway at a safe speed in your van, we'll say 80 kilometres an hour, and you come across a summer storm, and the wind and the rain can whip up, it might be 30 knots worth of wind, 40 knots. If it's got rain and wind and you're travelling at 80, the combined speed of those two things together, say 30 kilometres an hour worth of rain and wind, 80 k's in the van, that's 110 kilometres an hour. At 110 kilometres an hour, it's not unheard of for water to be pushed up past that rubber. Not huge amounts, but enough to make that moist in there or get a bit of a drizzle through there. If you've got something valuable or precious, or that should never get wet, you wouldn't put camera gear in there, you wouldn't store a wedding dress, you probably wouldn't put in there bedding, things like that. This is more for what we call hardware, tools, blocks of wood, maybe a jack. Some people like to carry their jack in here where it's easy accessible, ropes, parts of your annex and the like. Don't over pack the front boot, but most certainly use it to the best of its advantage for all those hard, heavy and constant use items that you put up. As soon as you pull up, you take things out and set yourself up. Or if you had a flat tire or whatever, you want to be able to access it. But it's not a waterproof area. A lot of people don't understand that. That's your front boot. Now let's have a look at a tunnel boot. That's when we go to the side of the van. We'll duck around there and have a look. Okay, we've moved over into our used van lot. I just wanted to find a van with one of these front tunnel boots, because this could be a front tunnel boot, and some vans have them at the back. It's regardless where it is, it's the same principle. This is a different sort of door. These can be locked. They've got two latches. You press the latches and the door will open, and there's a galvanised box, and in most cases these galvanised boxes run pretty well right through. On this van it runs right out to the other side, so you've got I repeated this door at the other end, so it's like a big suitcase with two ends, right? This is the most popular storage for a van, and this sort of storage is normally reasonably waterproof. Different sort of seal on the door, and it's got a little edge to stop moisture getting in, and you'll see that it closes from bottom to top versus that way. So this bottom seal is much more pronounced. So this is normally a waterproof area if the van's been built correctly. This is an older van. This is a 2007 Baroma, and in their day this was a very expensive van, very well built. This is quite unique. This one's an off-roader, so this boot would have seen a lot of travelling on dry, dusty roads. And that's another thing, it's not all about stopping moisture, it's about dust and dirt. So people could put things of value in here. They could have put a suitcase in there, they could have put furniture in there, they could have put an annex in there, shade cloth, whatever. And I can see, we haven't cleaned this van, but I can see by running my fingers around it that there is absolutely, I'll just show you. Now have a look at that. There is absolutely no, well not no, but there's just about no dust in there. So that is a truly sealed tunnel boot. That's a beauty. That's the sort of thing that you can make very valuable when you travel, because that's an area you can store things that you might not get out very often. You can leave them in there for long periods, regardless of the weather. They're protected from the rain, they're protected from the dust. You've got two ends, which means you could access one side or the other. You might have everything in plastic tubs that are on rollers this side. You might have all your annex bags and things on the other side. Some of these have actually got, and I'll show you on the other side actually, I should go around there. Might be a bit darker than you realise, but on the far end this one's got a tray. And that tray is a slide out, so that's made on the other end so that when the door's down you can mount a barbecue on there. A lot of these tunnel boots will have a pull out barbecue on a little runner. That saves people having to carry their barbecue around. It gets secured to that slide, you'd pull up and you'd slide your barbecue out. Easy access, making storage useful, making it simple and making it hassle free. So there's a side tunnel boot, another great idea to have. If you haven't got one in your van, it's a bit hard to put in after the fact, but for sure if you've got one, make the most of it. Packing the van's one of the most important things. It's not hard to do. It's a little bit like a jigsaw. You've got to put a bit here and a bit there. If you think about it before you go on your trip, you'll find your van will travel well. You'll find it'll sit better behind your car. You'll find it moves around less. And if you get a pattern, you'll tend to know exactly what to do for the next time. Packing your van becomes an easy job when you know why and where you put things. Have a good day.